associate in L.A. When I landed, they picked me up in this big, long limousine and said, don't ask any questions. And they drove me over to another hangar, and they took my wife and I out, put us on this big, beautiful jet helicopter. I said, where are we going? They said, ask no question. The helicopter took off, and it crossed the great metropolis of L.A. It kept going mile after mile, and soon it came to the beautiful shores and just kept on going. And headed out into the Pacific, and soon I couldn't see the coastline, and I saw nothing in front of me, and I thought, they're just going to bury me out here in the blues. But then I saw a little mountain range rise, and they circled and landed in Catalina Island. They picked us up in this little small limousine, and drove us around the sites, and took us to restaurants. We ate, and then they went back and put us back on the helicopter. And towards the mainland we went. When they arrived at the coast, they banked and went up to Santa Monica and banked again and flew over Beverly Hills. And the guide said, there's where Liberace lived in that mansion at Beverly Hills. And there's where Steven Spielberg lives. And he began to point it out. And then he came to the Playboy Mansion. He said, there's a Playboy Mansion. Of course, I went right in it. Come on, lighten up a little bit. And then the helicopter flew up right in front of that Hollywood sign we just heard. And then back again and flew right downtown L.A. And then it go between the buildings. And since the Dream Center in Angelus Temple is right downtown, they landed on top of Angelus Temple. They took us to our hotel and said, be ready tonight at 6:30. We'll pick you up. And again, there was that big limousine. It embarrasses me to death. The limousine does. That's not me. But my wife, she felt she was created just for the limousine. And we got in this big limousine and we're heading towards the Dream Center. We went down to Sunset Boulevard, which is one block, maybe a block and a half. The Angelus Temple is off of Sunset Boulevard. I said, why are you letting us out here and stood in front of the church like you do? They said, well, the crowd is so big. Liar, liar, pants on fire, you know. And we got out of the limousine, and I turned the corner, and when I did, I knew why they let us out. There was a red carpet for 2 blocks. And on each side, there were hundreds and hundreds, making their line and column of little people from the Dream Center. And as we walked down there, I remember those big old guys from the discipleship. Almost all of them had come out of prison. And I remember I just hit them on the chest, and if they struck back, I'd say, don't touch the anointing. And they were weeping, they were saying, we love you, preacher, we love you. And then I looked on the other side, and there were these precious women, between 20 and 30 years of age, all the way probably up to 40. Many of them have been prostitutes. And my mind began to go back to every Friday night. Last night, at midnight, 60 people from the Dream Center that work this ministry, they go out. How would you like to start your ministry at midnight? And they go out only armed with an armful of red roses. Yeah. And find these little girls who sold their body to evil men all night. And they're emotionally worn out. Physically worn out. They're depressed. Many of them have been forced into this thing by evil things. And they find these little girls in the street depressed. And they give them this rose. And they say to them, you're as beautiful as this rose. And this rose represents the rose of Sharon. And they tell the old story about one who loved them and died and gave his life, and how he wants to forgive them and give them the new hope. And the little girls begin to cry, and now every one of them gets saved. And then we say to them, would you like to get away from here? There's a place that you can go. It won't cost you a penny. You can live there for at least a year. They'll give you job training. They'll protect you from the pimps. They will give you new life and discipleship. And the little girl said, yes. Well, come on, let's go. And the little girl suddenly snatched the reality and said, I can't my pencil there. They'll kill me. And we say that. If you mean business, just stand right here. We'll be back in about 15 minutes in our van. And we're going to slow down and slide the doors open. If you'll just jump in, we'll rescue you. And 15 minutes later, we come by. We slow down. The doors swing open. They leap in. And the pimp runs and gets in his car. And the race is on. What that pimp does not know is we call ahead to the Dream Center. And we got about 200 men in discipleship that are just out of prison and are barely saved, if you know what I mean. I mean, we got everything at the Dream Center. We got prostitutes, we got gang members, we got drug lords, we got pimps, and that's just the pastoral staff. And we call ahead. And when we arrive, there's 200 of these disciple men with their tattoos bleeding in the sun. And we never see that pimp again. Can you say that? But I saw those precious women weeping. And then I came to the teen discipleship program. Those little rascals that Matthew wanted to bring in, but I said, we can't take people under 20, under 18, we'll be sued. Nobody takes them in. We can't do it. And Matthew, we fought over this thing, and one day he said, okay. And I was walking down the hall of Dream Center one day, and I said, what's in this room? And I opened it up, and it was still those little rascals. That dirty Matthew had smuggled them in. Amen. And you're glad he did. I can tell the way you're acting now. So to keep me from having a nervous breakdown, we went through all the struggle getting licensed by the state. And we're the only religious in the nation that is licensed by the state because it's a hassle. And now the state loves us. And we're protected. And we got these precious young men and women, little girls, they cut their wrists. The kind of kid that gets kicked out of school, the kind of kid who broke the school out. The kind that nobody wants. I mean, the incorrigibles. And as I walk down, I see this little girl. And my mom went back when she came to the Dream Center. She'd come to LA to try to be a movie star. Beautiful girl. But like so many, when she arrived, she had no place to stay. She met this man, he'd take care of her, take care of her needs. And before she knew it, it was a pimp, and she was involved in prostitution. She hated what she was fearing for her life. But she got pregnant and made the pimp mad. She found out that when the baby came, that she wanted to be home with the baby, and so her earning ability fell off. So the pimp warned her, if you don't get out there and make money, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill your baby. So the little lady said, no, please don't. She tried her best, but her heart was with her baby, and one day he took a gun, put it to the baby's head, killed the baby, and then took a curling iron and burned her in an area where she could never have children. And I looked at that little girl weeping. She looked up and said, thank you, preacher. Now she's one of the leaders in our discipleship. And I walked on. Hundreds of these people saying, we love you, we love you. Thank you, preacher. And I walked in the auditorium, and there were still thousands. And they all had signs that said, thank you. And I remember as I picked her up at the airport, and we walked to the parking lot. Before I started the engine, we joined hands together. And we said, we're going to make this thing work. For better, for worse, for richer, for poor, we're not going to quit. And I looked over at her that night. And she walked over to me with tears streaming down her cheek. And she whispered in my ear, in her sweetest accent, Tommy, I'm so glad we didn't quit. If we would have quit, there wouldn't have been the Dream Center. There wouldn't have been almost 200 of them all over America. If we would have quit, there wouldn't have been a Phoenix First Assembly of God as it is today. If we had quit, there wouldn't have been a Matthew. There wouldn't have been a Luke who's my associate at Phoenix. And there wouldn't have been a Kristen who's head of my women's ministry. You said, preacher, I'm glad you didn't quit. But I'm saying to you, don't you